Swanzey Then and Now. My guest today is Lee Dunham. Lee has so much information to share. And today we're going to talk about West Swansea. West Swansea's pretty huge.
Yeah,
when I think of West Swansea, growing up, I think of Browns Field. That's just me, because I played softball. What else do I think of about West Swansea? I think of Thompson Bridge, not knowing anything, like this is when I was younger or older when I was playing softball. But
maybe Scarlet Marauders?
I remember the Scarlet Marauders. I remember Gamarlo's store. Yep. Was that where the Marauders practiced sometimes? They had bingo there.
Their band hall was there.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about. And as I have said on previous shows, what we're looking for is information that people would like to share. So, Lee, you have stories. I have a few stories, but again, I'm not from Swansea originally. I came from Keene, but my family was part of the Lane family. And so I am ... connected. Yeah. So I know
kind of big.
Yeah, but I'm not like you where you had the Thompson, last Dunhams
my grandmother was a Whitcomb.
A Whitcomb,
and once you go to Whitcomb,
right.
My great-great-great-grandfather had 18 children, so
no wonder the Whitcomb name is everywhere.
Suffice it to say, there were a lot of them at one time.
Right,
so.
Right, yeah. And so we have maps with names on them and different things like that. But what we're going to focus on today, again, like we've done in other previous shows, is we're going to look at some photographs, see what we might want to talk about on some of these photographs, because there's a lot of history. I know we won't get through many, but we're going to get started.
Yeah.
Okay.
West Swansea's kind of neat because there's a lot of photographic memories and evidence left.
Yeah.
Because there were more people there.
Right.
And more things happened. So.
Well, you had the mill there.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of people in that
area.
And
a lot of different things, too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to touch on some of those today, but let's get started. Okay, so this is the old mill.
Yeah.
This is going down, is it California Street or close to that? I don't know what you would call it.
That's West Street right there.
West Street, okay.
Going straight toward the mill.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I just wanted to put this in. We do have a camping area in Swansea.
It's actually a very nice
It is a very nice camping area, and it's got the Ashwillet River, very relaxed. Yeah. You can go down and you can kayak, do different things like that.
The owners have done a really nice job with it.
Yeah, so. Yeah. And people don't realize it, because if you look off Route 10, you can see the camping area, there. Okay, so this is the Baptist Church.
Going way back, the Baptist Church.
Okay. What kind of a church is it now?
It's the West Swansea Community Church. So I think is what it's called. I might be wrong about that. It might have changed again.
Well, because if you look at old pictures, the picture of the Baptist Church, there was another church that faced towards the Whitcomb Hall, sort of.
Right. That was a Universalist church.
So they had two churches? Plus a Grange
on that same
meeting house.
Sort of what they call the common of West Swansea.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There was two churches right there.
Yeah.
That Universalist church got moved across Holbrook Ave, which used to be Homestead Ave.
Yeah.
And next between what I would call Boulet's store and the Heinz's. Was it the Heinz's house? Yeah.
So what you're talking about is if we were facing out from the door of what used to be the Baptist church towards the railroad bed.
Toward the railroad bed, right.
Yeah. So Boulet's store, what did they sell at Boulet's store?
Oh, it was your little neighborhood grocery store, like I believe it was.
Yeah, And I think a lot of people did that because when you look at a lot of the buildings, they had storefronts downstairs and the people lived upstairs.
We could do a whole show on stores in West Swansea. And we probably could do a whole show on stores in East Swansea.
Right.
The Lane are involved in some of those. So,
Yeah. Well, that was just like the mills. I mean, when you look at how many buckets, we're not focusing on that tonight or today, but when you look at the numbers of companies that made buckets and the numbers of buckets that they produced, it's incredible. I don't know where they got all of the wood, but we had a lot of pine.
Well, you don't know where they got all the wood. If you look back at the old land deeds and stuff, you're going to find the Lanes owned a lot of the hills off from Flat Roof Mill Road,
Uh-huh.
all that was Lane land
Oh, yeah.
behind where they owned property and where their mills were.
So that's where they got,
And if we go on this side of the town, the hills on the west side toward Chesterfield,
Yeah.
those were owned by New England Bucket Factory, or New England, it's New England Box Shop. It's the last people that owned it.
Yeah.
But our friend George Wickham of Wickham Hall fame,
back to West Swanzey now.
he owned that land
Right.
before the box company did.
Really? Yeah.
Because he sold his mill
Yeah.
to the box company.
Yeah. So now we're back in West Swansea. What buildings or what people made a huge difference in that area? I believe it was George Wickham, Dr. Wilcox,
Dr. Hopkins.
or Hopkins, excuse me.
Yeah, Dr. Arthur Hopkins.
Hopkins, yes.
He was one of those country doctors, if you will,
Yeah.
your town doctor that came to your house if you were ill.
Right.
Or you went to his house. And he lived right on the corner of Railroad Street and Christian Hill.
In the nice white house that's got the
Nice
beautiful
white
gardens.
house.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he was, well, we talked about his book before, but Pep, Pills, and Politics is a
Right.
book he
Which
wrote
is a
about
really
his life.
interesting book.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you want to know what a country doctor did
Yeah.
from about
I'll have to bring that.
early
We'll do another show on
1900s
that.
on,
Yeah.
it's fabulous.
Well, you know what I liked about him and George Wickham is that they gave back to the community.
Yes. Well,
And it wasn't like, it wasn't like a tax write-off kind of thing. I think it was more like they sound like they really cared.
yeah, there's more to the story, and I'm not going to go into the whole story,
Right.
but to George Wickham and Dr. Hopkins are the two principals in Wickham Hall. Because Dr. Hopkins wasn't a member of the Grange, but they brought him into the Grange, the Lincoln Grange in West Swansea.
Right.
And the Lincoln Grange met at the old Universalist church that you talked about
Right.
on Main Street.
Yeah.
And they brought him in, and no more did they bring him in. They said, geez, we need somebody to be the master of the Grange. So he has to go through all the degrees and everything to do that. And then what do? Well, we want to build a hall.
Oh, by the way.
So now he starts into that whole process, and that process ends up with George Wickham coming over and saying, hey, how much are you going to pay for this building? And, if you can raise that money, I'll build you a hall you'll never be ashamed of.
I remember this from another
and
show.
that's where
Yeah.
Wickham Hall comes from.
Right.
There's more twists to the story between
Right.
West Swansea and Center in the story. So, and
Yeah.
we'll keep
we'll
that for
We'll
later.
touch that. We
We'll
need
keep
to
that
do
for
another
later.
show because when we were doing In My Backyard, we did a program on the Wickham Hall before all of the renovations.
Yeah.
So we need to get back there again and do some more shows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because you guys
I think
now
we
have an
need-
L-chip grant. You're going to be
Yeah.
able to finish upstairs.
Yeah, in the next 2 years, you're going to see the upstairs totally
Yeah.
redone.
I can't wait.
And the place beautiful.
Yeah, I love the tin on the walls.
Yeah.
Even it's just me, but I even like the pink. I know you're going to paint it, but there's
I-
something about
I-
it just because that's what I saw the first time that I ever was
Yeah.
in the building.
I wish I could tell you if it was that pink when I first went in there. And of course, understand, when Wickham Hall was built in 1916, that was now the place where every child in West Swansea graduated 8th grade. in.
Right. Yeah.
Their graduations were held at
Yeah.
Wickham Hall.
Yeah.
And I'd like to talk to some of them. Was it
Well,
pink
Leon
then?
Nikiforakis.
I don't know.
Well, he was on one of the interviews that I did with him. He talked about the graduations
Yep.
and the Christmas ceremonies that they had there
Yeah.
and things like that. So maybe we need to get Leon back again.
Leon's
Yeah.
good with it.
Yeah.
And, and even in my day, and I was there, I graduated from 6th grade in 1970, and we did programs over there.
Really?
So
Yeah.
it was still being done back then.
Let's look at a picture. Okay, Bridges, the Bridges Inn. Now this has
Yes.
gone through lots of changes.
It's called
From
the
what
Bridges Inn at Wickham House.
Exactly, because Wickham owned it, correct?
George Wickham is, the last owner, well, not the last owner of it.
But I saw some photographs that had a porch all
Yeah.
around the front.
just like my house in Center did too.
Oh,
I had a
really?
porch around the front of
Yeah.
it, and then that was taken off.
Okay.
But that was also, if you go way back, that was a Stratton house.
Uh-huh. Oh, for Stratton Library in West
Stratton
Swansea.
Library, Stratton Mills, before it was the Browns
Exactly.
owning
Yeah.
it. If I go to the old homestead, you might remember the Stratton Gals in the fourth
Yeah.
act.
Yeah.
Denman
Lots of
Thompson put a lot of realism into the play.
Right.
So, and it's interesting to see the names. Like when you walk into the cemetery in Oak Hill in West Swansea, and you see Len Holbrook, or you see, I'm trying to think of the other, Warren Ellis, the fiddle player that Don Plummer made famous. I mean, he just lived the part, lived the line, and just had a ball with it. But Warren Ellis is buried in Oak Hill Cemetery, and he was a fiddle player.
These are the things that I never knew. I never knew that there was so much of a tie into Swansea. It seems like it would have happened at that time, but I just never knew. So, again, another show. Okay. Another photograph of the Bridges Inn. And this is the one where it's got the porch on the front.
That's got the porch around it, yeah.
Yeah. I think there might be another Bridges house. Oh, this is the Thompson Bridge.
That's Thompson Bridge and Gamarlo's house on the left there.
So Gamarlo's house was on that side of the
Gamarlo's
bridge?
house.
Okay.
And the store actually started on that side of the river,
so
too.
this brings us to the mill. If you're looking at this photograph, the mill would be on the right-hand side. You're going to go over the Thompson Bridge, over to the more well-built part of West Swansea.
Yeah, so if you look on the east side of the river, big houses.
Right.
A lot of big
houses.
And not to say that there wasn't a mill owner's house on the other side, on the west side, because there was, but that was taken down a long time ago.
But there's a lot more tiny houses on the side that's closer to Route 10.
There was boarding houses and other things there, so, for the workers.
Right, yeah.
And when you see people from French Canadians and stuff like that, that's all the mill influence of bringing people down.
Right. Because wasn't the building that is, if you're moving back towards Route 10, the building that is now an apartment building on the corner, that was a hotel, I think, at one time.
Yeah.
And then
That's also where
Nick's Restaurant. Was that the same building that Nick's Restaurant was in?
It was in that same building.
I always wondered, because there's another building right next to it, and I couldn't remember, again, as a child, going by.
Yeah, and the story of Nick's Restaurant is when Peter Nickofrakis, he was in World War II. When he got out of the war, his father bought that building for him, and there was a place for the restaurant for him to have something to do when he got out of the war.
And who would have known?
Those are kind of interesting things. Because the Nickofrakis family, when they came over from Greece, they came through, I think they were in Marlborough for a little while, and then they came over to West Swansea. They lived on Sawyer's Crossing Road at the Route 10 end, if you know where the gas company and whatever.
Yes.
Across the road.
I do.
I think it was called Riverside Farm is what they called it.
Leon had mentioned that as well.
And they sold vegetables. They grew vegetables and sold them to markets and stuff. So that's what the family did.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neat story with it.
Now we have the restaurant with the crab on the roof.
A restaurant with the crab on there, right.
But everybody talks about it.
Oh, yeah. And people know it, too.
Right, yeah. And I have to say, I did talk with someone at Nick's the other day, and they did confirm that they are not selling the restaurant. The land beside the restaurant is for sale, but not the restaurant at this time. So anyway, just wanted to clarify that if anybody has any questions. Things might change, but just wanted to clarify that. Okay, another picture. Oh,
that's a
isn't that a beautiful house? Now, I didn't realize that it was green.
I've seen a couple colors. Now you got to take.
You think that they just painted it?
You got to take it with a little grain of salt, maybe, because this is a colorized photograph.
Right.
Probably.
Maybe it looked better in green than white.
So, But if you saw the grounds there in the early days, I've seen the oldest pictures show a picket fence. And then and a lot of people look at that wall and think it was stone. It wasn't stone.
What was it?
It was cement made to look like
Oh.
stone. And if you really want to know something, that road in front of Denman Thompson's house, way back when, it really wasn't a road. It came in later on. And we found that out when we dug it up because the whole
Because
thing...
you used to work for the town.
Yes. When we went to reclaim the road, we found it was cement underneath. They'd actually cemented it as a driveway, if you will.
But they figured it was
And
better
that
to have it open than
did not make
both
somebody
directions.
very happy when they were trying to reclaim it. So
Right. Yeah. A lot of work taking up cement. But you know, that cement, in many cases, you know, getting back to like Keene and some of the other roads, even Gilsum and some of those areas, that cement still is strong. It's
yeah,
and so they probably made it with the really sturdy stuff. Anyway, okay, another photograph. There he
that's
is.
Denman Thompson
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
Now, you know, Denman Thompson wasn't born in Swanzey.
Right.
He was
Where?
born in Girard, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Because his father, Rufus, decided to go west to the new frontier, which was Erie County or whatever, Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania anyway. That was the frontier.
Yeah.
But they came back here when he was 13. So he lived here from 13 to 17, I think it was. So
What did his dad do?
He was a carpenter.
Oh, was he?
He
Yeah.
could fix all sorts of things.
Did he build this house?
I don't think he built that
Yeah.
house that's there. The date on the front of it's 1879. Now, a little history for you. 1879, that house was built before the old Homestead play is ever produced. So how did he make his money?
Exactly.
He had a first play, and that play was Joshua Whitcomb.
Right. I remember you saying.
And that started
Was that a
in-
shorter play and had
Well,
like
it
just a
started
couple of
out
scenes
as a
in it or something?
sketch.
Yeah.
It started as a sketch for only like 20 minutes or 25
Yeah.
minutes. And then they grew it to 3 acts. I've seen some programs that show it as 4 acts.
Wow.
But it's based in Boston and Swansea, not New York and Swansea like the old Homestead.
Right. Right.
So when the old Homestead comes out, it comes out as the sequel to Joshua Whitcomb. So, you know, he made a lot of money just on Joshua Whitcomb, and then, you know, the old Homestead
Right.
went on and on.
Yeah.
And he actually did both plays to some extent toward the end, too.
Wow. It's a lot. Interesting. Okay, next photo. Okay, another mill photo.
We're at the mill again.
Yep.
If
Let's-
you look at the mill, this is the brick part of the mill,
Yeah.
and it's on the south side. Just to the left of that is a wooden part. That's the oldest part of the mill.
And that's
It's at
still
a,
there?
it is still there.
Okay.
It's sort of not perpendicular to the road either.
Right.
If you look at that, you'll see that's the oldest part of the mill. And then incidentally, the mill grows out to the street
Right.
on Main Street
Right.
in the 40s for the war effort. That's when that happened.
Right.
So-
Yeah. And then there's another building that's kind of on the other side across, like, if you were looking at that photograph back this way a little bit, there was another, like, maybe even a separate building, I'm not sure.
Well, if you look on that side, there was a garage
Right.
that they had,
Yeah.
that they operated.
Yeah.
And there was also Story's garage, which was turned into the offices.
Ah, okay.
Story's garage,
So-
there was an auto dealership in there.
I think I remember that. So what did they mill at the mill? Was it blankets? Or
It's the Homestead Woolen Mill.
Wool, okay.
So they did. I don't know if I ever really recall blankets. You think of
But
Troy.
they would make, like, wool
Troy.
cloth?
Troy made blankets, but
like jacket cloth? I just wonder for the war effort what they would have made. Must be.
that it's
We'll
probably.
have to-
But
We'll look into that.
we'll look into that.
That'll be
because-
another show. Okay.
Did you ever have an old wool army blanket?
Yeah.
'Cause my
They're
father-
heavy and
my-
itchy.
Oh yes. Oh yes, they are.
Yeah. All right. Whitcomb Hall.
Whitcomb
And
Hall.
this one, this is one that is during the summer, and I don't even know if this is before the renovations.
That is after it's been painted.
Uh-huh.
It's after the street's done because of the new
Okay.
staircase
Yeah.
and everything.
Okay.
So that's recent.
So that's pretty recent then.
That's pretty recent.
Beautiful. So the downstairs has been renovated. It looks
Yep.
beautiful. I love the rooms. I love the hominess. I love everything that has been done. And I really am looking forward to seeing the upstairs.
Yeah, the upstairs is going to lend itself to so much
Right.
more.
Right. I mean, gosh, you could have weddings there. You could have, any kinds of family gatherings.
Weddings. I don't know if you ever did it, but I did in the 70s. Went out contra dancing in different town halls, and most of them are closed now. You
Yeah.
can't. I
Right.
contra danced in
Maybe we
Dublin
need to
Town
bring this
Hall.
back.
I did all over the place,
Yeah.
and it's a good place to have it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
actually.
And there's enough parking.
Yep.
So,
Well,
yeah. All right, one or two more photos. Okay, now I want to ask you, the small building, was that the post office?
that was the post office on one side.
Okay,
And there's several different stores
okay.
that have been there.
So that,
Hannah's store has been there. In our growing up time, it was Dora's store.
I think I remember that.
And the current owner actually has a sign on it that says Dora's store, I believe.
Maybe that's why, yeah.
And then Annie's store, that was, I think, in the 70s or so. So
And that building was just right across the street from
it's
Whitcomb
right
Hall.
across the street from
Yeah.
Wickham Hall.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because it's so tiny compared to all the other big buildings that are
Well,
around it.
that's big compared to the original post office that
Oh,
was there.
uh-huh.
There was a wooden structure there as a post office. So if you look for some older photographs, you'll find the wooden structure. That is now a garage on Eaton Road.
Okay,
Not too far away, but
yeah.
and it
yeah.
doesn't look anything like it. It's bigger than it was. And,
Yeah.
But I've talked to the owner, and yeah, that's
Isn't that amazing?
where it came
Yeah,
from.
and that they moved things so easily. Okay, one more photograph, and that's going to have to be it, I think, for today. Oh, okay. So this may be hard for people to see, but this is the Swanzey map. So let's go on a little bit further because that looks like it's going to be really hard for people to read. But it's very interesting to see the names that were on the roads and the properties that were owned. Now, this is the Thompson Bridge.
That is the Thompson
Again,
Bridge.
just
or
another beautiful
West
view.
Swanzey Bridge. In older pictures, you're going to see it called the West Swanzey Bridge.
Okay.
And then it takes the name Thompson Bridge.
Yeah.
In newer times.
Yeah. Now, what kind of a bridge is this? Again, the trusses are,
This is a town lattice style.
okay. And it
covered
has
bridge.
it has a walkway
that-
on one side.
Well, it now has a walkway on
Okay.
it. And the story about that is there used to be a walkway on both sides and sidewalks on both sides of it. But when the mill was allowed to build out to the street, that's when the south side
Had to be taken off.
was taken off.
I see.
So now it only has one walkway.
Yeah.
It looked really nice with two.
Right, right,
I'm
yeah.
one of those symmetry buffs. But,
Right, right. Well, I often wondered that, why they only had one on one side.
But
So-
also, look at that bridge when you go on the mill side.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see how the mill is,
It's
the bridge is angled
Yeah.
funny on that side.
Right.
And it's done that way because they used to back trailer trucks down to the mill.
Can you imagine?
I watched it when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would do it today.
No. Oh, I mean, can you imagine like the winters and everything? Anyway,
Yeah.
we're almost done. Again.
Again?
Another show. Okay, so we've talked about West Swanzey. There's lots of things to see in West Swanzey. If you'd like information about more things about Swanzey, you can go to a website for the town of Swanzey, and that is www.town.swanzey.nh.us, and you can find more information about Swanzey. But I just want to have you guys come back and let us know what you'd like to see. Again, Swanzey Then and Now.